Chisinau, August 27, 2025. The capital of Moldova has rarely felt so central to Europe's security story. Today, just hours before the start of a fiercely contested parliamentary election campaign, the country is receiving an unmistakable signal of support from three of the European Union's most powerful leaders: French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, and Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk have arrived in Chisinau for a high-profile meeting with Moldova's President Maia Sandu. The message behind the visit is simple but urgent. Moldova's democratic future matters, and Europe is watching closely. The symbolism begins at the palace steps. First to arrive is Friedrich Merz, the recently elected German Chancellor. His handshake with President Sandu is deliberate, framed by cameras and journalists who have gathered for the occasion. For Merz, this moment underscores Berlin's commitment to Eastern Europe's security architecture. He comes bearing both political weight and reassurance that Germany, long accused of wavering on defence matters, is ready to anchor Moldova more firmly to the European fold. The two leaders walk slowly up the steps, pausing for photos. For Sandu, these images are more than ceremonial. They are political ammunition at home, proof to Moldovan voters that her government is recognised and backed by Europe's largest economy. With Russian influence casting a long shadow, each gesture of solidarity takes on heightened significance. Moments later, the second guest arrives. Donald Tusk, Poland's Prime Minister, greets Sandu warmly. His presence carries a unique resonance. Poland has been one of the staunchest supporters of Ukraine since the Russian invasion began, and it shares a long border with Moldova's neighbour to the north. Warsaw knows better than most the risks of Russian interference in the region. For Tusk, standing alongside Sandu signals that Moldova's democratic aspirations are not just theoretical. They are part of a broader regional struggle for security, freedom and sovereignty. The two leaders pose, exchange pleasantries and head inside. Again, the choreography is important. Moldova may be small, but the attention it is receiving is anything but. The future of this nation of 2.6 million people is being bound into the larger narrative of Europe's confrontation with authoritarianism. Inside the palace, the conversations are expected to cover not just the election, but also energy security, economic resilience, and defence cooperation. In the past 2 years, Moldova has faced repeated blackouts caused by Russian pressure on its energy supply. It has also struggled under the weight of inflation and disinformation campaigns aimed at eroding trust in Sandu's government. European leaders know that to secure Moldova politically, they must also help stabilise it economically and socially. That means investment, energy diversification and support against hybrid threats. But outside the policy details, the optics matter enormously. The handshakes on the steps, the photographs with European flags, the images of Sandu alongside three of Europe's most powerful leaders, all are designed to send a message to Moldova's citizens. They are not alone. Their democratic process is being watched by allies, and their sovereignty is being defended in the court of international opinion. This matters because Russian interference is not hypothetical. In past elections, Moldova has witnessed coordinated cyber attacks on government systems, the spread of fake news on social media, and covert funding of political parties sympathetic to Moscow. Security services in Chisinau, with support from Western intelligence agencies, say these efforts are already underway again. By showing up in person, Macron, Merz and Tusk are attempting to blunt that influence with a counter-narrative that Europe stands shoulder to shoulder with Moldova against manipulation. For Sandu, today's meeting is also about survival. Her party faces stiff competition in the upcoming campaign, and opponents accuse her of being too dependent on the West. By welcoming Europe's top leaders, she is betting that Moldovan voters will see the value of integration, security and stability over the promises of those who look eastward. Whether that gamble pays off will be decided at the ballot box. But for now, the images of unity are politically invaluable. This is not the first time European leaders have travelled to Chisinau, but rarely has the symbolism been so pointed. The war in Ukraine has shifted the geography of European politics eastward, making Moldova, once peripheral, a frontline state in the battle of influence. Today's visit signals that Brussels, Berlin, Paris and Warsaw are treating Moldova's election as a strategic event with implications far beyond its borders. As the leaders meet behind closed doors, the cameras outside continue to capture the optics. Journalists gather around the palace gates while security personnel keep a watchful eye. EU and Moldovan flags flutter side by side. It is an image of partnership, but also of defiance. To Russia, the message is unambiguous. Moldova is part of Europe's sphere of solidarity, and destabilizing it will be met with coordinated resistance. By nightfall, the leaders will leave, and Moldova will turn its attention to the campaign ahead. But the memory of today will linger. For Sandu, it provides a boost at a critical moment. For Moldovan citizens, it is reassurance that their voices matter, not just domestically, but across the continent. And for Europe, it is a reminder that democracy must be defended not only on the battlefield in Ukraine, but also at the ballot box in Moldova. Tomorrow, the campaign begins. But tonight, the palace steps in Chisinau tell a story of unity, solidarity, and shared destiny. Macron, Merz, Tusk, and Sandu, 4 leaders standing together, projecting strength against uncertainty. In the flicker of cameras and the echo of their footsteps, one message resounds. Moldova's struggle is Europe's struggle, and its future is tied to the fate of the continent itself. Finally, Emmanuel Macron steps out of his motorcade. The French president greets Sandu with the practiced confidence of a leader aware of his symbolic power. Macron has consistently pitched himself as a bridge between Europe's Western capitals and its vulnerable Eastern neighbours. His wave to the cameras, followed by a warm handshake, provides the final touch to this diplomatic tableau. With France now visibly aligned alongside Germany and Poland, the support for Moldova is both cross-continental and unequivocal. As the leaders enter the palace for private talks, the meaning of their gathering becomes clear. This is not merely about Moldova's election, though that is the immediate focus. It is about shielding one of Europe's most fragile democracies from destabilization. Intelligence reports from both Brussels and Washington have warned that Russia is stepping up disinformation campaigns, cyber attacks, and financial support for pro-Russian parties within Moldova. With the parliamentary vote just weeks away, European leaders want to show voters and the Kremlin that interference will not go unanswered. For Moldova, the stakes are existential. Since declaring independence from the Soviet Union in 1991, the country has struggled with internal divisions, economic hardship, and the unresolved conflict in Transnistria, a breakaway region where Russian troops remain stationed. Sandu has worked to steer Moldova firmly toward the European Union, but her opponents argue that such a course could provoke Moscow and destabilize the fragile state further. That is the backdrop to today's meeting, a political contest in which the outcome could shape the country's identity for decades to come. The timing is also strategic. The European Union has sought to demonstrate unity in the face of Russian aggression, but the challenges of enlargement remain real. Moldova, like Ukraine, is officially a candidate for EU membership, yet full integration is years away. What leaders like Macron, Merz, and Tusk can offer now is reassurance, political backing, financial aid, and the promise of a European future if Moldovans choose to stay the course. Their joint appearance with Sandu is, in essence, a pre-election endorsement of her pro-European stance.